Zayas, I don't know if you want to provide an opening thought on what transpired today, and then we'll take questions, but it's all yours.
I appreciate everybody being here. This is certainly an important topic for our association and for the student athletes throughout New York State. This morning we were able to announce that we're going to put a moratorium on the hair adornment rule that we have within the association to give us the opportunity as an association with our full membership to go ahead and examine this rule.
What else needs to be examined?
Well, I think we need to go ahead and take a look at how long the rule has been in existence and if it's still serving the purpose that it was intended to serve when it was put into implementation. It's been in existence for a number of decades, and I think our association, we're constantly reviewing rules and regulations, and this is a good example of taking a step back, listening to the membership, and really doing what's in the best interest of the student athletes.
Do you know of any instance in the last 2 decades of a student athlete being injured by a flying bead?
No, but the rule has always been that beads are not permitted, and they were not permitted by our national organization either. So I have the opportunity to serve on our National Sports Medicine Advisory Committee, so we're constantly reviewing data. And again, I think we need to examine, does this rule still need to be in place? And if it doesn't, then let's go ahead and remove the rule. But right now we put a moratorium on it to give us the opportunity to examine the purpose and really, can we continue and should we continue to enforce it?
I think you might want to comment on this. It seems awfully remarkable that the Mohonasen track team, I think the girls are undefeated in the last 3 years and the boys have 1 loss. They were willing to take a forfeit unless your organization took action on this. That's pretty remarkable.
Well, I think what we see here is kids being passionate and enthusiastic about their teammates and the rules and regulations that are governing their sport. And that's great to see. But we also have a process for changing rules and regulations. So before things get too far out of hand, that's the reason why we really wanted to take a step back, put a moratorium on the rule, and give us the opportunity to examine the rule with our committees that are in place for these purposes.
And so whether or not permanent change comes, how long a process might that be?
Well, it's going to be determined by the membership. But right now there's an indefinite moratorium, so students will be able to wear hair adornments and beads until the rule is examined. And I think that's an important aspect of the decision that we have made as an association for the betterment of our student athletes.
Thanks.
Robert, I talked to you about this last night, but I had never heard of any track athlete for years being asked to take beads out, but it's come up the last 2 weeks. Why is there enforcement now, and seemingly there wasn't any before? Because I talked to you about this. I've seen kids in state championships wearing them, and they competed.
Yeah, whether the officials are enforcing the rules or not, that's a concern. But keep in mind, we have a very diverse 11-section system in our state. So what's happening in one part of the state may not be occurring as appropriately and as accurately as we may want. So I think that's a concern that we are constantly addressing to ensure that coaches know the rules and officials are enforcing those rules.
Was there any backlash outside of Section 2 regarding this?
During the basketball season, we did have some student athletes request a waiver to be able to wear beads, and we provided that waiver, as I mentioned last night.
There have been some suggestions that the bead policy has some racial undertones. Do you agree?
The jewelry rule and the bead policy is in place for safety reasons, and that has been consistent since the policy went into implementation more than 2 decades ago. The jewelry rule is in place for safety reasons. Now, our membership has been adamant that they do not want to revise that rule at this time. But again, it was in place solely for safety reasons.
And I guess, we were here last night. What led to the shift of just this overnight change?
Well, I think the overnight change occurred because we are listening to the concerns of the membership, and we're also trying to do what's in the best interest of our student athletes. We do not want to get into a situation where students are making decisions that could impact their eligibility. That's not going to benefit them when they're participating in any sport that we have the opportunity and the privilege of overseeing.
How long did you say this moratorium is in place?
Right now, there is no sunset clause on the moratorium. We put the moratorium in place to give us the opportunity as a membership to examine the rule. And once the membership has the opportunity to do that, we'll take it to our various sport committees, we'll bring it to our safety committee, and we'll continue discussing it. And it's going to take as long as it takes to get it right and to ensure that students are benefiting from our rules and regulations.
last night you mentioned the process of changing rules, that section has to go to bring it up to committee first. Can you touch upon that process again, and how long it typically would take?
Well, we have 11 sections, so in each section, they have a sport committee, and so what we ask is for items and rule changes to be discussed in those sport committees, then be brought to the section, and then the section always has the opportunity to bring any proposals forward for consideration and approval.
And after speaking with some superintendents yesterday, it seemed like a lot of them didn't know the rules, that there was a hair beads rule in place. I mean, every year, is there some type of conference or something that, so that superintendents know the rules?
Well, we host a athletic director conference at the beginning of every single school year, and I always cover jewelry in that conference and in that workshop for all athletic directors statewide. So at the beginning of each school year, I travel the state and conduct 11 athletic director workshops where we talk about all the rules and regulations, not just the jewelry rule, but also eligibility rules and standards, so all athletic directors fully understand the rules and regulations and have knowledge of those rules that are ultimately going to impact their student athletes.
You guys good?
We're good, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.